Hello, second grade, and welcome to Unit 6, Week 1. Let's start with our vocabulary words. Our first word today is the word appeared. If something appeared, it came into sight. So what does that mean? If something appeared, you're now able to see it. So we can say buds suddenly appeared on the tree in early spring, or what is the opposite of appeared? Our second word is the word golden. Something that is golden is bright yellow and like the color of gold. So bees swarm around the golden flowers. Or if you look at the color of honey, the color of honey is usually golden. Next, we have the word shining. Something that's shining gives off light. So we can say the light shining on the road helped the drivers to see at night. Our next word is the word crops. So crops are a large number of plants that are grown for food. So there are things that you can eat. So crops are like fruits and vegetables. Next, we have the word edge. The edge of something is the line or border where it ends. So my pencil or my pen slipped off the edge of my paper and wrote on the desk. Or if you have something sitting on the edge of the table, it might fall off the table. Next, we have the word rustled. If something rustled, it made a soft crackling sound. So the leaves rustled as the gentle breeze blew. So if you've ever been walking outside during the fall time when the leaves are kind of getting dry and crispy, changing color, and you feel or hear a breeze coming through, you can hear the leaves rustling, kind of moving around, bumping into each other. Next, we have the word stages. Stages of life are periods or parts of life that are different from one another. So you can have a different stage for different things. So there's, the baby stage when kids are still really tiny, they can't really move around too much. Then there are toddlers where, they're crawling and maybe starting to walk a little bit. And then, as you go on, each different part of life that has its own unique characteristics that make it special is called the stage. Next and last for this week's vocabulary, we have the word develop. When things develop, they grow and change. So you can watch a plant develop from being a seed to a little sapling into a plant that has leaves and flowers on them. You can watch a person develop from when they're a baby to when they're an adult. Our words this week are going to focus on open and closed syllables. So we've worked with both of these kinds before. Remember, an open syllable has a long vowel sound and it ends with a vowel letter. A closed syllable has a short vowel sound and it ends with a consonant. So we have the words pencil. So if you look at this, the way we divide it up, P-E-N is the first syllable, C-I-L is the second syllable. And we have short vowel sounds in each one of them, in each one of these syllables, and each one of them also ends with a consonant letter. So F, pen, I, ill, pencil. So these are two closed syllables. We have the word magnet. Again, A and E for our vowel sounds. We know those are short syllables and they both end in consonant letters at the end of those syllables. So those are both closed syllables. Same thing with publish, supper, letter. Now, whenever you're seeing a word that has a double consonant letter, that means they have two of the same letter next to each other. You're going to divide the syllable in between those two. So one of them will go in the first syllable and the other one will go in the syllable after. Now we have the words lady. So lady, we hear A, that's a long vowel sound. It ends with a vowel, that's an open syllable. D ends with a long vowel sound, also an open syllable. Same with the words gravy or solo. You're hearing the vowel say its name. You're hearing O and A. Now with the word open, O is its own syllable. That's a long vowel sound. It's an open syllable, but pen is a closed syllable. Now, whenever you have words that have more than one syllable, you can have closed or open or both. So the word open has both open and closed syllables in it. Odor, same thing, open and closed syllables. Lead is one syllable. Touch is one syllable. Door is one syllable. Front is one syllable. Someone, that's two syllables. So I know I put these lines to divide the syllables for you. I'm going to take them back out so that when you do your 3 times each, you can see your words clearly. So just like we were saying, open syllables have a vowel at the end, closed syllables have a consonant at the end. And if we have a word that has a double consonant, like mitten or sudden or litter or button or scribble or scribbling or chatter, we're dividing in between that double consonant. So there's two T's in chatter. We're going to separate it right in between those two T's. So each one of the syllables will get to have one of those letter T's in them. I put examples of closed syllable words for you here under the closed syllables, words that are just open syllables here, and then words that are a combination of open and closed syllables last. So you can go ahead and take a look at those examples a little more closely. Next, we're going to talk about compound words. So compound words are when you take two regular words that are whole words on their own, you put them together to make a new word that has a new meaning. So remember, they are two individual words. That means they're two words by themselves. You can use them alone. We're not talking about a prefix or a suffix that's added on or a root word that's not a word by itself. We're talking about two whole words. So baseball, base is a word and ball is a word. We can put them together to say baseball. Same thing with backpack or overtime, homemade, classroom. All of these are individual words that you can combine into compound words. You put them together, that means you're taking out the space in between them, and they're becoming one new word with a new meaning. Now we're also going to start talking about adjectives. An adjective is a word that describes a noun or a pronoun. You use adjectives all the time when you're describing things to your friends, to your family, to anybody. So adjectives can describe, for example, how many of something or what kind of something. So I'm going to give you some examples of sentences that have one adjective or two adjectives, and you can even have sentences that have more than that. So if I say, I saw 5 red roses, the number 5 and the color red are both describing my roses. So 5 and red are my adjectives that tell me more about the roses. Because I can say I saw 5 or I saw roses. That doesn't tell me very much. I don't know what size they are. I don't know how many there are. I don't know what color they are. So adjectives are words that give you more information and make your sentences more interesting. They help you to visualize or to imagine the thing in your head a little more clearly. When I say the big sunflower bloomed, I know that the word big is my adjective that's describing my sunflower. So big is an adjective that tells me more about my sunflower, tells me the size. I can say the fast runner won the race. Fast is my describing word. It's my adjective that describes the runner. So notice in all of these sentences, our adjective is coming right before the noun that it's talking about. My next sentence says, I read 3 long books at school. So 3 and long are both telling me about the book. So I have two adjectives here. 3 tells me how many, and long tells me what kind of books. And you can have more than one adjective describing more than one noun. So I can say the little puppy played in the big park. So little is describing my puppy and big is describing the park where he played. Two different nouns, two different adjectives. And my last example sentence says, I picked many flowers for my mom yesterday. So many is telling me how many. It just means a lot, right? It doesn't necessarily need to be a number, but it's giving you an idea of how much of the thing that you have. And the last thing we're going to talk about are called commas in a series. Now, a series is a set of 3 or more words. So when you're talking about 3 or more things in a sentence, we use commas to separate those words, and we use the word and or before the last word. So if you have 3 words, you have a comma after the first word, a comma after the second word, and the word and or right before the third word. Now we're going to go over some examples here, and I did color code them for you so that they're easy for you to follow. Now, my words that are in my series are in purple. My commas are highlighted with yellow, and underneath I numbered them for you so that you can see how many words are in that series. So a series can be a set of 3 or more nouns or adjectives or verbs. There are 3 or more of the same thing. Now I can say the farm has goats, cows, sheep, and chickens. So the 4 things in my series over here are goats, cows, sheep, chickens. Now, if I have 4 words in a series, I use 3 commas. You have 1 less comma than the number of words you have, plus the word and or for that 4th one. So I have the farm has goats, comma, cows, comma, sheep, comma, and chickens. So for the 4 words in my series, I have 3 commas plus a word that I added. So 4 words in a series, 4 things that I'm adding. Now my next example says, do you want to go to the park, beach, or zoo today? So park, beach, zoo are the 3 words in my series, right? They're nouns, they're places. So I'm going to separate them with commas and the word or, because here I'm trying to make a choice. I'm not talking about all of them. I want to pick one of them. So my sentence will say, do you want to go to the park, comma, beach, comma, or the zoo? So comma, comma, or I can use and if I'm talking about all of them together. So when I have 3 items in my series, I have 1 less comma, so that's 2 commas, plus the word and or. Next, I have a sentence that has 4 items in my series, and I'm describing markers. So those are nouns again. We need blue, red, black, and green markers. So blue, comma, red, comma, black, comma, and green. 4 words in my series, 3 commas in the word and to separate them. Do you want to run, jump, or skip at recess? So these are 4 adjectives, or sorry, 4 verbs, or 4 things that I can do, right? Run, jump, skip. Those are my 3 words in my series. So that means if I have 3 words, I'm going to have 2 commas plus the word and or. So run, comma, jump, comma, or skip. And my last one, I will cut, glue, and color my work. So again, 3 verbs over here. I will cut, comma, glue, comma, and color my work. So make sure you're paying attention to how many words in your series. Remember, however many words you have 1 less comma than the number of words plus the word and or right before the last word. Now we're going to the weekly stories for this week. So this first story that we're going to start reading for Unit 6, Week 1 is a myth. And a myth is a story that's passed down in a particular culture or from a particular country that usually has a lesson or a moral. There's something you're learning from it. It's not just a story for fun. So let's go ahead and listen to this story.
Genre, myth. The Golden Flower, a Taíno myth from Puerto Rico, by Nina Jaffe. Illustrated by Enrique O. Sanchez. Essential question: what do myths help us understand? Read a myth about how a golden flower grows. In the beginning of the world, there was no water anywhere on earth. There was only a tall mountain that stood alone on a wide desert plain. There were no green plants. There were no flowers. All the people lived on top of this mountain. One day a child went walking on the dry land below the mountain. As he bent down over the ground looking for food, something floated by on the wind. He reached out and caught it in his hand. It was a seed, a small brown seed. He put the seed into his pouch. The next day he went walking and again found something as it floated by on the wind. It was another seed. Day by day he gathered these seeds until his pouch was full. It could not hold any more. And the child said to himself, "I will plant these seeds at the top of our mountain." He planted the seeds and waited. One morning, a tiny green leaf appeared. The child watched. From under the ground, a forest began to grow high on top of the mountain. All the people came to see. It was a forest of many-colored flowers, a magic garden of green leaves and thick branches. The child was happy. In the middle of the forest, at the foot of the tallest tree, there grew a vine that wrapped itself around the tree. And from that vine there grew a flower more beautiful than all the rest, a bright flower with golden petals. And from that flower something new appeared in the forest. It looked like a little ball. "Look!" cried the child. "Something is growing out of the flower." As the people gathered around to watch, the ball grew larger and larger until it became a great yellow globe that shone like the sun. Even as they walked on the dry land far below, people could see it shining on top of the mountain. One woman said, "If you put your ear next to the ball, you can hear strange noises coming from inside." The people listened. Strange sounds and murmurs could be heard, but nobody knew what was hidden inside. The people were afraid. After that, they all stayed away. Even the child stayed away. One day, a man walking on the desert plain saw the golden ball. He said, "If that shining ball were mine, I would have the power of the sun. I could light up the sky or make darkness fall." And he ran toward it, climbing up the rocky mountainside. On the other side of the mountain, another man saw the shining globe, and he also said, "I want that thing for myself. It will give me great powers." He too began to run. Each one climbed quickly. Each one found a footpath that led to the tree. They both ran without stopping until they reached the shining globe at the same time. But what they found was not really a ball. It was the fruit of the golden flower, a calabaza, a pumpkin. The two men began to fight and argue. "It is mine," said one. "No, it is mine," said the other. Each man grabbed the pumpkin. They pushed and pulled. They pulled and tugged until finally the vine broke. The pumpkin began to roll down the mountain faster and faster until it crashed into a sharp rock and burst apart. Whoosh! Waves of water poured out of the pumpkin. The water bubbled and foamed. The waves began to cover the earth, flooding the desert plain, rising higher and higher. For it was the sea that had been hidden inside the pumpkin. Out came the creatures, whales, dolphins, crabs, and sunfish. All the people ran to the top of the mountain to hide in the forest of green leaves. Stop and check. Make predictions. What do you think will happen after the people run to the top of the mountain? Use the make predictions strategy to predict what happens next. "Will the whole earth be covered?" they cried. Higher and higher the waters kept rising up the sides of the mountain. But when the water reached the edge of the magic forest the little boy had planted, it stopped. The people peeked out from behind the leaves, and what did they see? Small streams running through the trees, a beach of golden sand, and the wide open ocean sparkling all around them. Now the people could drink from the cool streams and splash in the rippling waves. Now they could gather fish from the flowing tides and plant their crops. The child laughed and sang as the sun shone down and breezes blew through the green leaves and rustled the many-colored flowers. Water had come to the earth. And that is how the Taínos say, between the sun and the sparkling blue sea, their island home, Boricane, came to be. Genre: expository text. Compare texts. Read about how a pumpkin plant grows and develops. A pumpkin plant. Pumpkins are a familiar sight each fall. Some people decorate them, some bake pumpkin pie, and others eat the seeds. Have you ever seen a pumpkin grow and develop from a seed? Let's learn about this amazing process. Inside a pumpkin. If you have ever watched someone carve a pumpkin, you know that there are a lot of seeds inside. All pumpkins begin as seeds. If you plant the seed in soil and give it the water, light, and air it needs, it will become a new pumpkin plant. Pumpkins contain many seeds. Seed coat. Seed food. Tiny plant. Inside the seed is everything needed to grow a new pumpkin plant. How to grow pumpkins. Plant seeds in a sunny place. Plant them in the spring. 1. Form soil into a small mound. 2. Place 4 to 5 seeds in the top of the mound. 3. Water the seeds. 4. Keep the soil moist. You will see sprouts in 1 to 2 weeks. Pumpkins will be ready in about 4 months. You have seen a tiny pumpkin seed and a grown-up pumpkin plant. Now let's learn about the stages in between. A seed grows. You plant a pumpkin seed and give it water. In a few days, you will see a small green sprout above the ground. At the same time, roots grow below the ground. Each day, the sprout grows. When it is long, it is called a vine. The vine continues to grow longer, spreading out along the ground. Yellow flowers, which will become pumpkins, appear on the vine. Small green pumpkins grow where the flowers were. Over time, the pumpkins get bigger and turn orange. Soon, they are ready to be picked. Now the cycle can begin again. Life cycle of a pumpkin plant. Seed. A pumpkin starts as a seed. Sprout. Next, a sprout grows. Vine. The sprout grows longer and is called a vine. Flower. Yellow flowers grow on the vine. Green pumpkin. Small green pumpkins form on the vine. Pumpkin. Finally, the pumpkins grow big and orange.
All right, that takes us to the end of our reading and our literature anthology. We're going to go ahead and jump into our reading and writing workshop. And this one is another myth that we're going to be reading, titled Why Fir Tree Keeps Its Leaves.
Genre: myth. Why fir tree keeps his leaves. Essential question: what do myths help us understand? Read about a tree that learns why he does not develop like other trees. Long ago, in ancient times, Mother Nature gave each tree a different purpose. However, she did not share her reasons with the trees. Fir tree had 3 friends: maple, oak, and elm. During the first summer, they saw bird and squirrel play in farmers' corn and tomato crops. The breeze blew and rustled their leaves. The shining sun warmed them. Then the first fall arrived. Farmer harvested what he had grown. Maple, oak, and elm's leaves turned beautiful shades of orange, red, and yellow. The leaves shone as golden as the sun. Fir tree's leaves stayed green. Fir tree complained to Mother Nature. I don't like my leaves. I want them to change colors like my friends' leaves. Be patient, Mother Nature replied. You will learn your purpose. So Fir tree waited. The temperature dropped even more. Bird flew south, and squirrel was nowhere around. Maple, oak, and elm lost their leaves, but fir tree's green leaves remained. Soon snow blanketed the ground. Again, Fir tree protested to Mother Nature. Why am I different? Why don't I have stages and change like my friends? I seem to be stuck in one period of life. Be patient, Mother Nature replied. Soon you will develop an understanding of your purpose. Just then, Squirrel appeared on the edge of the forest. She was cold. When she went inside the forest, she saw Maple. She asked if she could build a warm nest in his branches. Maple said he didn't have any leaves. She asked Oak and then Elm. Both said the same thing as Maple. She was still bitterly cold. Squirrel approached Fir tree. Excuse me, she said. May I build a nest in your branches? Yes, that would be nice, said Fir tree. Squirrel ran up Fir tree's branches, and she made her nest. Soon, she was warm, comfortable, and asleep. Fir tree finally understood that his green leaves provided a warm shelter for animals in the winter. From that moment on, Fir tree was happy to be different. Still today, he remains proud of his evergreen leaves. Make connections. How did Fir tree develop differently from his friends? When have you wanted to be like your friends?
All right, that takes us to the end of our stories. Now, our comprehension strategy for this week is to reread. This is one that we've talked about in the past. Rereading is when you go back and read a part of the story again to get a better understanding of what the author is trying to say. This is a really good strategy to use if you feel like you didn't really understand what the author was trying to tell you, or if you feel like you read through it too fast and you might have missed something important. After that, we're going to talk about our comprehension skill, which is the theme. The theme of a story is the message. It's what the author wants you to know. It's what it's the message that the author is sending to the reader.
Reread. As you read, you may not understand a word, phrase, or explanation in a story. Stop and reread these parts to be sure you understand. Find text evidence. I didn't understand why Fir tree doesn't like his green leaves. I will reread page 407 of Why Fir tree keeps his leaves to find out why. Tomato crops. The breeze blew and rustled their leaves. The shining sun warmed them. Then the first fall arrived. Farmer harvested what he had grown. Maple, oak, and elm's leaves turned beautiful shades of orange, red, and yellow. The leaves shone as golden as the sun. Fir tree's leaves stayed green. Fir tree complained to Mother Nature. I don't like my leaves. I want them to change colors like my friends' leaves. Be patient, Mother Nature replied. You will learn your purpose. I read that Fir tree saw the other tree's leaves changing colors, and he wanted his leaves to change colors. Theme. The theme of a story is the main message the author wants to tell the reader. To find the theme, think about what the characters say and do. Find text evidence. On page 407 of Why Fir tree keeps his leaves, I read that Fir tree is different from his friends. This clue gives me an idea about the theme. Graphic organizer. Clue. Fir tree wants to be like his friends. Mother Nature tells him he will learn his purpose. Theme. It is okay to be different. Myth. Why fir tree keeps his leaves is a myth. A myth is a made-up story. Explains why things are the way they are. Has an important lesson or message. Find text evidence. Why fir tree keeps his leaves is a myth. I know the story is made up. Trees and animals cannot speak. I also know it is a myth because the story explains why a fir tree is evergreen. Genre focus. A myth usually explains the lesson at the end. The end of this story explains why the fir tree never loses its leaves. Context clues. To understand the meaning of a word you do not know, look at the other words in the sentence for clues. Find text evidence. I am not sure what harvested means. I look at the other words in the sentence for clues. I read the words, what he had grown. I think harvested means something the farmer did after he grew his crops. Harvested must mean picked or gathered. Farmer harvested what he had grown.
All right, that takes us to the end of our notes and our reading for this week. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I hope you have an amazing week. Take care. Bye-bye.